Welcome to T&J Gaming, and today, guys, it's Morphin Time. What that means, our April game of the month is going to be Renegade's new Power Ranger RPG system. And we're going to take a look at what that means for the game of the month, but before we get into that, I'm a 90s kid. I was born, I'm 31, so 1990. I grew up on the Power Rangers. Every day after school, rushing home, kind of just sit in front of the TV and see what crazy adventures Rita and Zed would throw at the Rangers. Like that was my jam. If you went back and asked 5-year-old Tegan what was his favorite fandom, he without a doubt would say the Power Rangers. Now, while I grew to love Star Wars and Marvel probably a little bit more, it still holds like a special place in my heart, which is why when I saw that Renegade came out with the system, I was stoked. And kind of why it became our game of the month, or our first game of the month for the T&J Gaming channel. So what that's going to mean, and let me transition a little bit so you can actually take a look at our schedule for this. So for the game of the month, you're going to actually get to see kind of a breakdown of the system, starting with this video, which is Power Rangers First Impressions. You're going to see me reading through I've already read through the book. You're going to see me kind of go over some of my first thoughts, feelings on the system, just some of those pre-game thoughts or pre-running it, just to kind of see what I think so far. And that's the nice thing with the game of the months. Each of these will be a game or a system I've never played before. Not as a player, not as a GM. So you're going to see me kind of go through these brand new systems and kind of come up with my initial thoughts during a video like this. And then out throughout the month, we're going to have more content related to that system. Because what I want to do for each of these systems, because part of the mission for Tegan J Gaming, I wanted to expand my horizons a little bit beyond just kind of the traditional 5e and Star Wars 5e. If you're not familiar with Dungeon Jedi Masters, go check it out. Put a link in the description. And the Pathfinder Worlds. I wanted to see more RPGs played. And I wanted to give more RPGs a little bit of a spotlight. So with these two, we're not only going to go over just my first impressions, we're going to, on the 26th, take a look at how to build a Power Ranger PC. So we're going to go over kind of the ins and outs of building the Power Ranger. And since I use Roll20, I'm mostly online nowadays. Thank you, COVID, I guess. I'm going to show you how to do it on Roll20, which is my system by default choice. It's pretty good. So we're going to show you how to build that Power Ranger. We're going to use Roll20 as a base too. So in case you want to play the Power Ranger system, or in case you're a player in the Power Ranger system, you can use this video and hopefully help you get a PC built without any stress. So stay tuned. The 26th, we're going to have that video up online for your enjoyment. Outside of that, 4-2. If you're familiar with me from my Dungeon Jedi Master days, I love to build monsters. Regular 5e, Star Wars 5e, a little bit of Pathfinder. Monster building is one of my favorites, and that's one of the things I want to do for each of these game of the months. Is when they do have rules or a system for building your own monsters, I want to whip something up and throw it out there for the community. So we're gonna build a monster on the 4/2 or April 2nd for that. So you're gonna see me work through that. You get to see it played live on April 5th too. So each of these game of the months, we're gonna wrap it up, or part of the wrap up process will be playing a live game on T&J Gaming Twitch, where we'll go through, and this will be my first time running it, and for my players, just for Power Rangers, this will all be their first times playing it too, and most of the times for the players, it will be their first times as well. Just so you can kind of see us run through it. 'Cause I know a lot of times when you watch Twitch or watch somebody streaming a game, they've usually have some experience in the system. They've usually been playing it for a while. They're comfortable with it. But that can sometimes be, it's nice to see. Sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating. So I wanted these games. These are all of our first times running. You're going to see some rule lookups. You're going to see struggling with some rules, probably getting some rules wrong. But we're hopefully still going to have a blast doing it. So you'll feel comfortable when you pick it up and get to see a little bit of the system in play from us. But you'll be able to run it too. So that's April 5th, live play game. After that, we're going to do kind of there's two more videos coming out that'll be late early April, going into my thoughts overall on the system, kind of a post game review, just kind of what I thought afterwards. And then also I'm going to do some tips and tricks. If you're a GM and want to jump into the systems, there'll be a video about that too. And I'm probably going to couch it from the 5e perspective too, just so you kind of get a little bit of I know that's where most of us are coming from, me included. So I want to give it for coming from 5e, what you can expect. So stay tuned on that side. And then of course, Big Mutants Masterminds channel. So we've got some tips coming from DMs on how to come from 5e to, or GMs, I should say, coming from 5e to running Mutants and Masterminds. We also will have some tips too for guiding your players through the character creation process. So both of those are coming. So stay tuned on that. But one last thing before we dive into my first impressions. So, part of my mission with this was to get more of the community aware of RPGs outside of the 5e space. And this includes myself, too, to see more of the world that's just not D&D 5e, Star Wars 5e, or even Pathfinder. I wanted to really kind of branch out a little bit. So, with this, on April 5th, we're going to be giving away a PDF, or we're going to be giving away the means to get the PDF for the Power Rangers RPG system. In each game of the month, we're going to be doing that. So it kind of depends on how their website's set up. If there's an easy way for us to go in and buy the PDF and gift it to you, we'll do that. If not, we're going to give you the gift certificate to their website, and we're going to go right to the publisher. So for this one, it's going to be right to Renegade's website to make sure they get that full cut and nobody's Amazon or anybody's taking their own piece out of it. We're going to give you that gift certificate to their system and encourage you to go through and buy that Power Rangers, either the PDF or in case you want to add a couple of few of your own dollars and get the actual hard copy book. So, because I want to encourage more and more people to jump into new systems, and I thought that'd be a good way to do it. So, join us on April 5th. All you have to do is be a follower of T&J Gaming on Twitch. Be there, start at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there'll be a little process to enter the raffle once you join in. And then sometime before the end of that game, we're going to raffle off the book, and a lucky participant will have their own gift certificate to Renegade, which I hope you buy the Power Rangers PDF and get your own Morphin game on with your players. So stay tuned to that one. We're going to be hyping that up in each of the videos, so definitely join T&J Gaming. Follow. You don't have to be a subscriber. You just have to be a follower. Just follow us so you can see all of our cool other actual play content. We've got some cool Star Wars 5e stuff, Mutants and Masterminds, the works. So, but that's enough on that side. Let's get into the meat of it. Today, we're going to be talking about my first impressions of the Power Ranger rule system. Let me flip my screen a little bit, too, so you can see actually the cover and some of the cool art that the system has. And we're going to kind of break it down and this first impressions, this can be kind of like what I see after reading the book. Because I've went through and I've kind of read each of the sections just so I can get a good idea of the system. And I'm going to be going through more and more as we get closer to the game date on the 5th. But basically, these are going to be going through and just listing some of my likes, my dislikes, just my initial impressions of the system, and maybe some things I'm unsure about too. But one of the things I'm super sure about, and I bought myself a PDF, and I kind of wish I bought a hard copy. So if you do win the game, it may be worth it kind of throwing a couple extra dollars in to do so. The art is gorgeous with this book. I wish I bought a hard copy initially. They kind of went through, I feel like there's a lot of like 90s kind of kids like myself who had some love for that old Mighty Morphin era. And they just like, there's just beautiful art, just detailing all the Zords, the Power Rangers, some of the villains too. Just really well done. And I was very impressed as I was looking through the book. So definitely my first kind of rose or like for this. The art. Outside of that, we're gonna kind of get into a couple of my other big likes before we go into like the real list outside of the art. As I said, I grew up on D&D 3.5 to 5e and then Pathfinder. I'm a huge D20 fan. I know a lot of the RPG purists will kind of decry it just due to its lack of consistency and kind of say that using D6s and other die can be more consistent or just more mathematically appealing. For me, there's just something about rolling a d20 that just brings me some extra enjoyment. So that's a big bonus for me. I know that may not be a bonus to everybody, but for me, that's a selling point, and I was really happy to see it. So it's a d20 system, but they kind of do their skills a little bit unique. We're going to go into that later. That's on my unsure list, but we're gonna talk about that. But it's definitely something new. It's not going to feel like it's a 5e clone. So initially, I thought it was going to be a 5e clone. It's not. It's its own unique system. So that's really cool in my book. But so far, we talked about the art, gorgeous, D20, my favorite. Let's dive into some other cool things about this system. So one of the other pieces I really loved is how they set up the classes in the system. So we're going to pop over here. You're going to see it flip to hopefully the Green Ranger. There we go. So you're gonna see the Green Ranger. They've got 6 classes in this game, corresponding to the 6 main colors. So you've got your Red Ranger, Blue Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Black Ranger, Pink Ranger, and then you got the Green Ranger. So those are the 6 core classes for the system. Now they have like rules for like advanced classes, and they've got one example so far. So they've got rules for how to make a White Ranger. It's an advanced class. So it'd be like you kind of earn this while you're gaming through. They only have the one so far in the base rules, but I think they'll be expanding on that. So that's kind of a little bit of Bud. If you guys use that Rose, Bud, and Thorn thing, I got that from NADPOD. So that's a little bit. It's cool to see. I wish they had a couple more examples because if you got players, you can't give one person White Ranger and then everybody else nothing. But I bet there's just kind of my own Power Ranger lore. There'll be stuff to like make a Silver Ranger or a Gold Ranger or what is another one like how to be the RoboCop. I forgot what his name was, and Ninja and all those other guys. I bet there's rules coming for that in expansions or just other updates that they're doing. So that's kind of a Bud. But for the 6 core classes, definitely a rules. So each of the core colors have their own kind of class style features. So they play different roles on the team. So this is era agnostic for the Power Rangers and how you build it. And you get a lot of customization in how you build your Ranger. But they definitely took the Mighty Morphin era as the kind of the framework or kind of the basis for the influences. So if you want to be the leader, Red Ranger, you've got some cool leadership traits. If you want to be the Blue Ranger and be smart, you get some cool like I forgot what they called it, but it's just some inventions or some out of the box traits. Black Ranger's encouragement, so kind of some bardic style inspirations. So each of them have their own cool thing they can do. So some more gorgeous art here, but you get to see a little bit too on the kind of what makes up the level. So it goes 1 through 20, so similar to a D20 or not D20, D&D system on that side. And you get kind of cool different things for each of the levels. One of the other things I like how they do it too, and you'll see a little bit on the grid equipment. So we're gonna go scroll down a little bit to It's Morphin Time. So this is kind of a cool thing. They have it for standard action. It doesn't cost any resources. It just takes that standard action. So a little bit different than 5e. So you don't have like a main action, bonus action, reaction. This you've got standard action, movement, and then free action. This takes a standard action. So this is going to be your main action throughout a turn. And you can go It's Morphin Time and get your Power Ranger gear on. And I liked how they did the weapons too, very thematic to the show. You start with some initial weapons, you can go through and pick up some other ones as well. And if they're tied to your morphing or the grid, you can just summon them to your hand with a free action. So just really, really similar to the show, really thematic on that side. And you see as you morph, you get to increase certain stats, your jumping speed. You get to do just different things that you can really just boost yourself up on. So kind of, and I want to give a little bit of sneak peek on how I'm going to be rolling this. So if you're familiar with Power Rangers, you know they like to have like the 3 phases of a fight. You start off with putties and you're in the playground, and you're just fighting the putties in your unarmed gear, and you're going hand to hand with the putties, using the environment, just having some fun with it. So that's kind of that first phase. So they've got the morphing rules, but you can definitely fight unmorphed martial artists and kind of do all the other cool stuff that the Rangers did, inventive, environmental, and all that in there too. So that's going to be the first phase for my game. They're going to start off unmorphed, probably some putties or something else I don't want to give too much away. They'll have to deal with. And then after that, they're going to get Morphin Time on. So I'm not going to have it be... So, and I'll kind of give some... so with this, so it takes a standard action. I'm probably not going to have them do the morphing in initiative order, just because I always like that kind of the thematic where everybody's going through. It's Morphin Time, Saber-Tooth Tigers, Tyrannosaurus Rex, all of that. So I want that to be in my game too. So there'll probably be a little bit of a lull in between that first putty fight and then the real monster showing up. And then after that, they'll probably beat up the monster a little bit. Hopefully, the dice are with them, and then have that monster get beat down, and then every go make my monster grow, and they go into the Zords. So that's how I'm going to have it, 3 different phases of either the same combat or just 3 different combats spread throughout the adventure. Cool thing with this, though, and as you see, kind of breaking down the adventures, and they've got Zords, and we're going to go into that a little bit, too. They've got the Morphers and all of that. But one of the things they brought over from the lore, which actually makes it a lot easier for you as a GM, is they brought over Zordon's Do Not Escalate rule. So this is kind of a rule, I think all the Rangers teams have it, but definitely the Mighty Morphin teams with Zordon had it, where basically you're not supposed to escalate past what the threat is. So if you're fighting some putties, you can handle that unmorphed. So try to handle those guys unmorphed. If you're fighting a monster, you can handle that in your morph state, but you don't need your Zords yet. until it gets big, and then you need your Zords. So they've built that into the rules, even with rules for GMs to go through and say, hey, this threat, like you don't need to call in the Dragon Zord for 3 putties. The power is not going to let you do that. And they built that right into the system, so it gives you GMs just a little bit more, kind of just a little bit more confidence being saying no to your players without feeling like you're railroading them. Because players love to cheese stuff. Sometimes I run a lot of Star Wars where you have your whole spaceship, and having to make sure that your players can't just ride in with their X-wing and blow up the stormtroopers. Well, every time, every now and then that's fun, but every time gets a bit ridiculous. So with this system, you've got something baked in to make sure it's fair, keeping everything entertaining, and you don't feel like your players are just cheesing their life away. But speaking of, and we're going to go into speaking of Zords, level 3 for this system. So I'm starting my players off at level 3 because I wanted the Zords. Zords are such a unique aspect of the Power Rangers experience. I couldn't imagine not having them there. So I included the Zords. So I went to level 3 to include the Zords. They're great. We're going to switch over because they're another one of my roses or my likes for the system, as I like how they did the Zords for this. So, a couple different things on Zords. Zords, you can either go through, so they've got options in there. They've pre-built a lot of like the iconic Zords. So with my crew, just to make life easier, it's a one-shot. I don't want to spend too much time on it. They pre-built the Mighty Morphin Zords. We're using the Mighty Morphin era. So we've got my team. We've got the Blue Ranger, the Black Ranger, Green Ranger, and the Yellow Ranger, which is pretty awesome because we're going to use the Dragon Zord, Megazord. So that was actually the combination for those. It kind of came organically for the classes they chose, but that's what we're going to be using, and we're going to just use those pre-built ones they put into the system. But the cool thing with this is you can go through and build your own Zord. So you can go through and each class, each of the colors or the thematic ranger colors gets their own benefits they can apply to it or different things they can. But each you can go through and just customize your own Zord and just really build it out. They give you the baseline statistics and what comes with each of like the spectrums and how that all plays in there. And at certain levels, like I think 3 and 6 and other levels, you get different features you can apply to your Zord. So that's baller. That's pretty sweet for me. If I was playing the campaign, I would definitely let my players build their own. But for just a one shot, I thought just using the Mighty Morphins would be easier and just a little bit too. I'm a 90s kid. I wanted some of that. I wanted just to have a little bit of my nostalgia going too. So that's what we're doing for our game. So I hope that fits for what you guys are looking for too. But if you like, because usually like I'm a customization. Like I love to customize anything out. If you want that customization, the system supports that. Definitely a rose. Definitely something I like with it. And as I said, if you scroll down to, you get a whole bunch of Zord features. You get how to combine and bring the Zords together. And then you get these stats in there for some of those iconic ones. How to bring that into the game without too much stress or too much effort. So cool there. Definitely one of my biggest roses because if you don't get Zords right, Power Rangers just doesn't feel like it should. And from what I've read so far, I remember this, I haven't played it yet. I haven't even done a one shot or haven't even rolled any dice along with the system yet. It feels like it should. So that's cool. That's something that's big for me. So that's one of my other biggest likes. My last biggest like is I like when RP or I like when Crunch supports the RP, and they did a good job with that here. So you're gonna see. I'm gonna go scroll up a little bit. Scroll down actually a little bit. So you see they've got with this system they've got 3 different breakdown. So you've got your origin, which is what you were before, which determines your HP, some of your starting skills, starting kind of just it basically goes over who you were before you became a Power Ranger. So it starts your starting health, starting skills, and some other starting abilities. Then you've got your Ranger role, what color you are in the spectrum, and then after that you've got your influence. So origin is kind of who you were before you became a Ranger, but your influence is who you are as a person. And with that too, it gives you some perks and hangups, and also some specialties too. But the nice thing with the perks and hangups is like it gives you some things you can play into with the RP and give your GM some tools and levers they can pull just to help make some great RP for the table. And I always love when mechanics come through and support that and just give you some extra tools that you can utilize at your table. So I like that. Similar to the kind of the Mutants Mastermind system where it gives you your archetypes. I forgot what it is. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. But basically gives you those different things that you can put in there and kind of what made you who you are, and how you can earn hero points, and I think they call them power points in this system for kind of some good RP on that side. So cool to see. Something I liked, at least I found interesting to see. So those are my likes. Let's kind of get into some things I disliked, and we'll wrap up with something I'm unsure about. So one of my kind of my star complaints on this one is that they don't have a lot of what they call threats, which is their monsters. They don't have many monsters in there, and the monster manual is not out yet. They don't have a scheduled time for their monster manual being out yet, too. So there's just not many of them, which is kind of a bit of a bummer for me. Especially because they've got some cool ones in there, but they don't have like Goldar, or Rita, and Goldar especially. I feel like they should have put Goldar in the kind of the core book on that side, because he's just such a big Power Rangers. And I know that they're saving him for their threat manual, but he's just too big to be left off, in my opinion. So that was just a little bit of a thorn on that side, because like, especially with it being a new system, having like I like making threat monsters, so hopefully I like making threats too. But having to go through that for a new system is just a little bit tiresome, though they did release rules on how to do so recently. It was not in the main book, but they did release them on a PDF on the Renegade website if you want to go through and look that up. Actually, I'll put a link in the system too, so link in the description. So that's a thorn. My other big thorn on this side are two things I'm going to probably change. So as I mentioned before, I kind of want to have like the three-phase approach to the fight. So you got the martial arts fight, unmorphed, the morphing fight, and then the Zord fight. With this system, they built in like Zord summoning times. So like if you wanted to summon your Zord, it would take 3d2 rounds. So you'd flip a coin twice, and it would take whatever you get on 3d2 for the Zord to get there, which is at least going to be 3 rounds, which I don't like to artificially inflate the amount of time for combat. Combat can already take up a good bit of time for most systems, so I didn't like that one. I'm not using it. So usually I always try to say play a system before you change it, but that one I know I just won't like it, and I want to have my kind of flow a little bit better, and I don't like wasted time. So for that one, we're not using the Zord summoning time. Once the arena makes that monster grow, they'll be able to call their Zords and get everything going. So that was my two big ones I didn't like. One thing that's kind of right tied into that I'm unsure about is, so they've got the Zord summoning time, but they also have the Zord combining time. So with that, I think it's a 1d4. You have to wait 1d4 rounds before you can combine the Zords all up into one Mega Zord. So I'm keeping that in. I'm not sure about that one. I think that kind of fits. And 1d4 is not that long. So I'm going to have them, especially that way you can kind of have everybody fight using their own Zord's abilities, and then kind of build and make that monster Zord and kind of go through and clash there. So I'm going to play it that way initially. It's just something I was unsure about. I'm not kind of exactly sure how that's all going to fit together, but definitely looking forward to seeing how it does come in there. My other big one that I'm not too sure about is I want to go, and let me see, I forgot to put the number in there for the system. So they do their skills in a particularly interesting way. So let me scroll right over there just so you can see the chart. So skills, you roll a d20. As I said, this is a d20 system, but rather than like add like 5e where you have like modifiers, you're not adding your modifier in. You actually, if you're proficient, or I shouldn't say proficient, if you have points in a particular skill, you get to add extra dice to it. So you get to roll some more dice. So like seeing this chart, you start off at the base die. So if you're not any skill points in that skill, you're at the base die. But if you've got one skill point, you get a D2, and so on and so forth as you go through there. So that's kind of how it starts off at base. So you have your base skills, and so you have essence points, which are basically your character attributes, which you can put in like speed and strength and all of those things. And the more points you put into certain attributes, the more points you have to spend on a skill. So kind of cool on that side. Kind of a little bit of a unique take. Definitely kind of breaking out of that D&D mold, which I liked. But it's just one of those ones. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. So I want to see this one. This is what I'm unsure. So I want to see it played out in person, just to see what I think and what I feel on it. The nice thing too with this is so you can do advantages, so which are edges are advantages, and I forgot what the word for disadvantage is, but you've got both of those on there, and you can kind of shift those up and down. But also, if you're the DM, and there's like something that's not like an advantage or an edge, but you wanted to kind of shift or give them a little bit of advantage or a little bit more oomph to it or a little bit less oomph, depending on what the environment or the circumstance is, you could shift their dice up and down that chart. So let's say like somebody had like a D6 in martial arts, and then they came up with some really cool RP on an attack they wanted to do, and you're like, hey, I'm going to bump that up. You get to add a D8 to your D20. So I like that. I like that aspect. I'm just not sure how I feel about it. I feel like it's going to be very swingy, just with dice all the time, no modifiers. But I don't know. I want to keep an open mind with this. I want to see how I feel after the game. But as I said, those are kind of a look at the look at the first things I found reading the system. Just some things I liked, some things I wasn't sure about, some things unfortunately I didn't like. Luckily with this one, there's not too much I just overall didn't like. So I'm hoping it should be pretty cool. But that's the end of this video. So drop through, like, subscribe. This is a new YouTube channel. I definitely want to spread the word to the masses. So please like and share if you do have any friends who grew up on the Power Rangers system and wanted to bring that to the tabletop, or if you are playing Renegades RPG and want some more kind of content on that side too, drop in and throw a comment in and say kind of what you like, what you dislike about the system. I'd love to hear some different perspectives on this one. So drop in, like, subscribe. If you aren't a follower of Tegan J Gaming on Twitch, drop in, follow that, and then make sure to join us on April 5th. Because if you're new to this system and like, hey, I want to play some Power Rangers at my table, jump in. We're going to be giving away a Power Rangers PDF, or the gift certificate to buy your own Power Rangers PDF, or put an extra couple dollars on I Wish I Did and get that hardcover with the kind of the amazing art. And then you could bring this to your table with your crew too. So thank you guys for joining me. This has been kind of our April-March focus for the channel outside of our Museum Mutants and Masterminds content. So hope you guys are in and kind of stay tuned with us. But overall, thanks for watching, and may the power protect you.